Okay, so I want to start off this video by talking about something that kind of shook the comic book community as a whole, and honestly just like pop culture in general. Not really pop culture in general, but just like every community. It just kind of erupted. And I made a video about this when it happened, begrudgingly, but it gave me this idea for another thing that I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to talk about that now, and I'm going to stop being super vague about it. The thing is Captain America Steve Rogers being an agent of Hydra. And I talked about in that video that he's not a Nazi. Hydra and Nazis are completely different things, so I'm not going to super get into that. Long story short, Hydra's been around for centuries, probably even longer than that, and Nazis were just a thing in World War II. And Hydra just joined with them because their mission statements were kind of the same. And I think like the actual canon explanation is that they saw Hitler as a person that had good ideals or something. Hilarious, right? But no, yeah, so Captain America being an agent of Hydra. Everyone hated this. This like blew, not everyone, but a lot of people, a good vocal majority, it could have been a vocal minority, I have no idea. A lot of people hated this, going even so far to the point of buying Captain America Steve Rogers #1, which is where the reveal happens in, burning it, filming that, and then sending it to Nick Spencer, the writer of that series, and like all Captain America books currently. That's hilarious to me. But it's also like incredibly stupid for various reasons, but and there were also, like, of course, death threats that were being thrown around. I hate that I have to say of course there, because that's such like a general thing that happens with rash decisions. Not rash, but like just big shakeups that happen in comics or fiction or anything like that these days. It's a terrible thing that should not happen. But that's not really the point of the video. This sign back here that crudely says, "Good story," that's a greater than sign. Good story is greater than everything else. That's kind of the idea that I want to discuss with you here today, is the idea that good story is something that is good regardless of gimmicks or any spoilers that you're given or anything like that. So in the case of Captain America being a Hydra agent, just because he's a Hydra agent and he's had his reality rewritten that he believes that he's a Hydra agent, doesn't mean that the story we're gonna get, or I'm speaking at this time, doesn't mean the story that we're gonna get is gonna be bad. And as of the recording of this video, the story has been phenomenal, and I think everyone can agree with that. Even like some of the people that were super outtrying against like, Cap being a Hydra agent kind of betrays his character, what's going on here? I think you can agree that, like, if you've read Steve Rogers, it's been a pretty wild ride so far. It's been a really good series. It's not, you can't really complain about it getting too political, because it's really not. Sam Wilson Captain America is the one where Nick Spencer's putting all of his political stuff into that book. But in Steve Rogers, we just got this like really interesting comic book storyline of Captain America, goody two shoes, white boy of America, is here to tell you that he's a Hydra agent and has been all along. And it's such a cool twist. Like, we've been able to get this story out of it that we would have never gotten otherwise, with every single interaction that Cap has with people that don't know that he's a Hydra agent. There's another level on there of you reading into his dialogue to see, like, where's his motivation here? Is he still conflicted and actually wanting to help these people? Or is he just toying with them to plan for his bigger Hydra plan or something like that? And of course, all of this is probably going to be rewritten at some point. It's going to be retconned away, or Steve is going to go back to normal, or the course of the events right now, it seems like Baron Zemo is going to take over his Hydra empire, and then Steve's going to get real mad, and then something's going to happen in Secret Empire that's going to like change him back to being good old classic Steve Rogers. But I don't know, and I don't care, because we're getting a good story out of it. It doesn't matter. And another thing that I wanted to touch on in terms of this idea of story trumping everything else is continuity. Continuity is a thing that is highly regarded in comic books, and it's a very touchy subject, at least lately, especially with DC trying to do their DCU thing where continuity didn't matter. You had like Batman is Jim Gordon in one book, where at the same time Bruce Wayne is still Batman in Justice League, and they didn't, as far as I know, they didn't really explain that. They were just like, it's DCU, continuity doesn't matter, but then they like retconned an explanation in or something. I don't know. I'm not a huge DC guy, but something Marvel that I can tell you about is Civil War 2 and Brian Michael Bendis in general. I feel like he's going to be a theme of these types of videos, because I have a lot to say on this man. I love him. He's great, but he can be a real shithead sometimes. And here's why. The biggest criticism of Bendis' writing, especially lately, is that he just outright ignores continuity in other people's books, which is 100% true and 100% annoying. So to take the example of Civil War 2, which actually the show with reviews episode that inspired this series, I talked about this in great detail over there. He heavily ignores continuity in that book, like even to the extent of characters just betraying what they said in their own tie-ins. I think the most blatant example of it, at least in that Civil War II issue 5, which is the big fight issue, is Luke Cage, in his own book, decides that he doesn't want to be a part of this second Civil War because things got way too messy for him and just the superhero community in general in the first Civil War. So he's like, no, I'm going to stay out of it this time. It's not my place to be in. And then in Civil War II, issue 5, he's just fighting among everyone else for no goddamn reason, and it is just entirely stupid. And there's countless other examples, like Doctor Strange uses a big like teleportation spell in, I think, issue 5 or issue 6, might be issue 6, where at the time of like the Marvel Universe, in continuity, magic is not that powerful, so there's no way he could teleport like 30 people just off the cuff without having some weird artifact that has a little bit of latent magic in it left. And it's very clearly a thing that Marvel is trying to pay attention to, because to bring up Nick Spencer's Captain America books again, and other people's books, Doctor Strange and other characters have mentioned the fact that magic is not what it used to be. And that's just a throwaway line, but it helps maintain a cohesive continuity because that's what they're going for. I'm not saying that continuity is super important above all else here, but Marvel and DC have these big shared worlds where continuity is a thing that they've been pushing for 75 years. That's probably arguable, but now it's definitely a thing. Continuity is a huge thing, especially with the MCU and the DCEU trying to start their own continuity-filled movie shared universe worlds and making everything consistent and stay the same. But writers like Bendis, and I'm sure there's other writers who don't care about continuity, ruin that idea, especially when they're put at the forefront of your company's books and are writing the like big summer blockbuster event, Civil War II. It just shows, it's just annoying. It goes against everything that your universe stands for. When you're promoting this shared universe, the continuity is something that you need to pay attention to if that's what you're going for. And all of that big continuity rant, I'm getting to a point that deals with that. If you're going for it, that's the main key here. If you're going for shared continuity, you have to pay attention to continuity. But there are cases like alternate universe stories or just self-contained graphic novels that have these characters in them but are their own continuity. And you can do that. And I think writers like Bendis would thrive in that. And I honestly think that Bendis, just as a writer, another criticism of his is that he takes way too long to tell the stories. Each issue just feels like, it doesn't feel like a self-contained thing, which it doesn't have to, but you don't start the comic and end the comic feeling satisfied. You start the comic and end the comic feeling like there's like 20 other pages that you're missing most of the time. So Bendis working in a model where he's just putting out a complete story that doesn't mess with Marvel's continuity or anyone's continuity for that matter, would be great. It'd be a great model for him, and I think it'd be a great model for most writers. Applying like a Netflix model to comic books, which is another thing in and of itself, which I might make a video about. But I think Bendis would work in a Netflix-style model where he can tell his good stories without having to worry about continuity or people complaining about his stories taking too long to tell or something like that. Because Bendis is a good writer. He's a great writer. There are good moments in Civil War 2, especially the first few issues, but when you have all of this other stuff going in and continuity and all these, like the characterizations being weird and off sometimes, it's difficult for a writer like Bendis where he just kind of wants to do whatever the hell he wants, which is not okay in a shared universe. So there's another rant about Bendis for some reason. Again, I feel like I'm not going to be bashing Bendis a lot, but I'm going to be talking about Bendis a lot in this series. So what I want to get to now is some more examples of good story, like trumping gimmicks and spoilers and just all this stuff. That's the like main thing I want to get across here, is that a good story is a good story regardless of how we got there or what stupid gimmicks led us there. This is the biggest one that I used as like a defense of Cap's Hydra reveal back then, is Superior Spider-Man. Superior Spider-Man is pretty much a widely acclaimed, critically acclaimed series. It's very good, and how we got there was a stupid gimmick twist thing where, oh no, look out guys, Doc Ock is inside Peter Parker now, Doc Ock's Spider-Man now, this is gonna be garbage, I bet. And people did, like, I wasn't reading comics at the time, but from what I've heard, people hated it at the time of this like twist happening of Peter dying in Otto's body and Otto carrying out his legacy as Spider-Man. At the time where that happened in Amazing Spider-Man 700, I'm pretty sure people did not like it. It was probably not to the magnitude of Cap Hydra thing, but along those lines. And what we got was 32 issues, 31 like core issues, and I think one was a Spider-Verse issue. The 2 was a Spider-Verse issue. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We got a great story out of it. We got a really cool redemption arc for Otto Octavius. And like from the first arc of that series, we see the point of the series where he is a superior Spider-Man in the technical sense of the word, where he just does Spider-Man better than Peter Parker ever did. He's more efficient at it. He's more clear at it. But as we learn throughout the series, he's truly not the superior Spider-Man for reasons that I don't want to get into, because you should read the series. It's very good if you haven't read Superior Spider-Man. And we got a great story out of it, and I've read all of it. It's over there. It's right. Wait, no, it's not. Where is it? Oh, it's right there. You can't see it. It's down there. I promise it's there. But yeah, I thought it was a very fun book, and most people thought it was a very fun book, and it came from a really stupid twist comic book gimmick thing that was pretty much done to sell comics. And another thing that ties into this is death in comics. Death in comics nowadays is kind of just used as it's not used as an emotional plot device anymore. It's used as a mechanism to sell comics, which is grubby and shitty if it's just used for that. But it can give us good stories, so you can't super complain about it. And I know this might be like kind of apologist-y, talking just like you could defend literally anything that happens in comics with just saying, if it gives us a good story, who cares? Which, yeah, that's kind of my argument here. So yeah, death in comics is used as kind of a selling comics thing nowadays, especially when you could put on your, like, I'm pretty sure there was a book called Death of Hawkman, and that's what it was called, and like, why? But I mean, great, good job on killing Hawkman, but at the same time, that's what you're gonna call your book. And it's the same thing with Death of Wolverine. Like, I'm sure it was called Death of Wolverine just to sell comics, which is fine. It was still a good story. I thought Death of Wolverine was great, and they haven't really tarnished that yet. Mostly because Old Man Logan replaced, like, actual Wolverine, so they didn't need to bring him back for a movie. But you never need to bring him back for a movie, by the way. That's a different video in and of itself. But, anyway, yeah, death. I want to talk about a specific death that gave us a fantastic story. Which, it was, just, again, death, stupid gimmick, whatever. Captain America died. Steve Rogers died. Talking about him again. Steve Rogers died after Civil War, He was shot by like a time-displacing bullet. He didn't actually die. Sharon Carter like was brainwashed and shot him or something. I don't know. But the point is, we got a great story out of it. We would have never seen Bucky Barnes as Captain America if Steve didn't die, because someone had to take up that mantle, and Bucky did, and it was such a gosh dang cool arc, going all the way from the start of that run with Winter Soldier, with the who the hell is Bucky, all the way from here, where he's now Captain America. It's cool. We got a cool story out of it. We saw a different Captain America. He had a gun. Captain America had a gun, guys. It's like an SMG. He had like a metallic-ish suit. He was more edgy. It was pretty cool. We got a good story out of it. Good story. I'm not pointing to it. There we go. Still getting used to this set, guys. Okay, so as is the case with a lot of these videos, which I'm calling AURAM'S FORUM. It's stupid, but it rhymes. Shut up. It's catchy. We're not branding this at all, so it doesn't concern you at all. But in-house, it's called AURAM'S FORUM. The kind of the thing with this, each topic I'm gonna want to talk about for like hours on end, but I gotta cap it off somewhere. I think I got my point across pretty consistently. Story is better than anything, regardless of a gimmick that gets you there. Captain America being a Hydra agent, who cares? It'll go back eventually, but we're getting a good story out of it, so doesn't matter. Captain America dying. It went back eventually, but we got a great story out of it. Bucky Barnes being Captain America. Peter Parker dying and being replaced by Otto Octavius as Spider-Man. Dumb gimmick thing. Peter died. Whatsoever. That doesn't make any sense. Peter died. Who cares? But we got a good story out of it. He came back to life. It was fine. We got a great story out of it. Who cares? That's the point of this video. If you disagree, talk about it in the comments. I am actually super curious to know if you're one of those people, or you know one of those people who like really hated the Captain America Hydra reveal. Tell me what you think of it now, and also tell me if you have read the Cap comics, because I know a lot of people that were just incredibly upset about the reveal just didn't read comics at all, so they didn't know the context of it. All they heard was from the news, Captain America's a Nazi, and then they were like, bitch, I'm in the army? Captain America stood for something! And one last thing, before I totally wrap this video up, check out my Twitter somewhere, @AuramAlexander. Talk to me about stuff there. Yell at me. Or don't. Follow me. I make way too many tweets. Actually, I don't make as many tweets as I used to, so make AURAM's Twitter great again. So yeah, there you have it. Once again, remember this. Good story is greater. Wait, what did it say? Good story is greater than everything else. That makes sense, right, guys? Yup. Yup. That's it. That's all I got for this video.